Hello Internet, Demogen here. In case anybody is wondering, it is the second day of early access. It is 9:04 AM. There was no queue for me to get into the game this morning. That being said, I am now on Louisoix, which I know is one of the less congested realms, because the world visit on login thing was working last night. So obviously your mileage today is very much going to vary. It is, after all, the weekend. You might be wondering why I've got the 1,000 Moors of Toto Rack map pulled up. Because I was trying to remember what the dungeon was called. Because you know that bit that's kind of here, where you're wading through the sludge and everything is heavy and slow? That's how I feel this morning. My illness is not abating. I have slept, but I don't feel re-energized for it. But I need not my body, but I need my mind, or something that could have been better grammatically constructed. What did I do last night in the little bit of time I managed to get between logging out and re-logging in at like 2 AM because I couldn't sleep? I actually... where are they in this? Yes. Oh, it's right behind my head. I got Reaper up to 71. In fact, I got Reaper about halfway through 71. I went to... I can't remember where I went to. I can't remember whether it was Sage that I went to the Dungeon Roulette on, and Reaper that I went to the Alliance Raid on. I did some more Fairy Dailies on Reaper. I've done a Trust Dungeon on Reaper. They still don't AoE. It is slightly quicker. Whole Mr. Switch. See, I can remember the name. But it's not much quicker, and it's only quicker because of the scaling of values. Sage definitely feels better now that I have got some macros set up for things, so that is good. Reaper is just really good to play. The only issue that I'm having with Reaper is that I keep forgetting to put Shadow of Death's Design debuff on things, because I assume the class is balanced around the fact that you're always going to have this 10% debuff on enemies. So when it falls off, you lose a chunk of damage, and at the moment you don't get any kind of party utility to make up for it. Also, I was having real issues with the different combo-y things. I can't remember actually whether I'd moved these around yesterday or whether this was something I moved around last night, but because the activation for the Gibbet and Gallows and the Guillotine skills are based off Bloodstalk or Grim Swathe, I've moved them over here so that I can keep control held down. It's not working quite as much as I'd like so far, quite as well as I'd like so far. So we will see how that actually improves and gets better. But it's really cool to play. I like it. Anyway, I'm able to move. There we go. Thank you. So we're going to continue onwards with the story today. And we are going to do the Charlian side of things. Hitting the books, Kryl is intent on uncovering the reason behind the Forum's inexplicable behaviour. An unsettling change has come over Charlian, but together we will divine the underlying cause for the Forum's callousness. As I mentioned before, however, questioning the councillors directly is a fruitless endeavour. They seem to have already come to a consensus as to what and how little they are willing to divulge, which is why I began scouring Charlian's archive of historical records for any hint of a connection to the final days. Suffice it to say that progress has been slow. There are only so many dusty pages one can skim in a day, but now that I have this band of willing reinforcements, the search should proceed all the swifter. Let us reconvene outside Numenon, shall we? Exit the annex to the right, and you'll find the archives on the western edge of the woods. That's growing on me. but it's definitely not quite as catchy as the turning jingle, and I don't think it's as catchy as the Shadowrunner's one. I have edited together my first 3 videos. So my Q Thoughts video, which contains no spoilers, unless you count a glimpse of the login screen as a spoiler, which I'm sure some people will do. But there's no spoilers in that video because it's literally just me talking about predictions and what I want and stuff like that in the queue. And a little bit when we get into Limsa and stick the stuff on a hotbar, and that's it. Then I've got a video about Sage, all of the Sage stuff put together. All of this will obviously be out by the time this video comes out because that's how time works. And then, of course, I've got the Reaper video. I'm guessing something is happening over here. All these people. 80, 81. That's a cat. My directions were easy enough to follow, I hope. In any case, you stand now before the doors of Numenon. Numenon? Phenomenon. No, that was elsewhere, wasn't it? Charlane's grandest collection of books and tomes. This building is actually only an entrance, and one of many at that, for the archives of Numenon extend deep beneath the surface like the roots of a tree. Oh, this is where Graha was in the trailer. The vast halls of the Great Google Library pale in comparison to Numenon's endless maze of subterranean chambers. Any citizen of Charlane is free to enter and peruse its shelves. Well, most of its shelves. Only Archons are afforded access to certain restricted vaults. I've dispatched Ishtola and Raha to investigate those. Meanwhile, Alizane Alphanel will help me continue my search through the stacks open to the general public. Your status presents more of a problem. As a non-citizen, you are only permitted to browse the first floor here at the entrance. Even so, there should be a number of books which touch upon Charlane history or foreign policy. The task will be to find and study the relevant publications. I promise you a working knowledge of these subjects will make it far easier to spot the sort of clues we're looking for. Let's be about it, shall we? I've told the others to meet us at the stone benches over there once they found some promising tomes to be reading. Thank Kryl. Let us go and read. That's going to get picked up by the microphone, isn't it? Ooh. This doesn't look safe. I was wondering whether this was a security measure so they could cut off access to the shelves, but the ones over there are solid, so. Brightly coloured book. The story of Charlane. Where's my controls? Long, long ago, on an island in the northern sea, there lived a Rugadin man by the name of Nunkrep. Nunkrep was a student of astrology, and he divined that a flood of terrifying proportions would soon sweep over the lands of Eorzea. So it was that he built a gigantic ship, assembled a crew, and set sail for that imperiled realm. The flood arrived as foretold, and to their horror, the strangely churning waters drove the people towards the ocean. It was there, however, and Nunkrep's crew hauled them aboard his ark. The danger had not passed. A towering wave approached, threatening to smash the vessel to pieces. With only moments to spare, Nunkrep wove a mighty spell of teleportation and shifted the entire ship to safety atop Abalathia's spine. Oh, we've been there, haven't we? Refugees from the surrounding regions huddled there alongside them. That's in, That's in Alamigo, isn't it? It was not long before disputes over the dwindling supply of food led to violence and bloodshed. Saddened by the sight, Nunkrep gathered to him his crew and his grateful passengers and abandoned the ark to those reddened peaks. They journeyed to the coast, where they built a new ship, intent upon returning to the northern seas. They landed on the beach of an island and settled upon that very spot. That settlement prospered and grew, and in time it became the city of Charlane we live in to this day. Many years ago, on the banks of the Thaliak in the Dravanian hinterlands, a Charlane colony once thrived. The settlement was originally established as a mere outpost to study the ethereal sea in the year 1311, of the 6th astral era. Scholars dispatched to Eorzea found the facilities wanting, and the demands encouraged a gradual expansion in structures and services. As rumours spread of a growing community of academics, the area was further inundated with Eorzean students hoping to share in the renowned wisdom of the Sharlayans. 50 years later, the Forum passed a motion to recognise what had become a flourishing town as an official Sharlayan colony. Eorzean residents took calling the colony itself Sharlayan, which led to no small amount of confusion when discussions turned to the subject of the motherland. In response, some Sharlayan inhabitants, if pressed for a name, would simply refer to it as Emporium. Following the Great Exodus, however, goblins and treasure hunters claimed for themselves a corner of the abandoned colony and gave it yet another name, Idleshire. Following chapters go on to introduce the most prominent features of Idleshire. This book does not appear to contain additional information on the Forum or cover the history of the Sharlayan motherland in great detail. But 'twas interesting, nevertheless. Something tells me these books are flats. The voice of a growing city. In the years which followed the founding of Sharlayan, civic policy and other matters of import were decided at the Ecclesia, a public forum at which every citizen was eligible to speak. As the city's population grew, however, this format became increasingly impractical. The larger number of participants gave rise to ever longer debates, resulting in significant delays of vital resolutions. Various measures were introduced in an attempt to curtail protracted discussions, but in the year 201 of the 6th astral era, it was ultimately decreed that Sharlayan would transition to a new form of governance. The nation would now be led by a body of 99 members, citizens chosen from amongst their peers by means of a nationwide vote. Thus was the form as we know it today conceived and created. Okay, that is basically stuff that we already knew. An introduction to the heavens. Have you ever gazed at the skies above and contemplated the mysteries contained therein? I speak not of shifting cloud patterns, but of the vastness beyond, of the sun, and the twinkling tapestry of the night. Some think the dome above us to be a finite space, yet amongst the leading thinkers of our age, one scholar's depiction of a boundless sea of stars has firmly taken root. Alas, this heavenly sea remains an unreachable, unknowable destination. We're going to the moon. There are few indeed who can explain in satisfactory detail why our own star is believed to revolve around the sun. It was the technologists of Alag who came closest to understanding the laws which govern that starry abyss. It was they who launched Dalamud and sought to expand beyond our earthbound existence. Having read of their ancient ambitions, I wonder, has your interest in this field of study waxed or waned? What if I were to tell you that the eternal constellations were arranged differently in the distant past? That their positions continue to shift almost imperceptibly but measurably as we journey into the future? Would it shock you to learn that the stars drift further and further apart, and may indeed do so forever? Are you eager to learn more? This book is on the wrong subject. Search for works which contain details on the forum. But I liketh the law. Forever 20 summers. My beloved seekers of knowledge, have you ever put learning before your health and neglected to feed and rest your body as you should? Who, me? No. I too once engaged in such foolish practices, but one night, engrossed in philosophical study, I had an epiphany. For all the world's mysteries that drive us to reckless abandon, we have so very few years of life in which to achieve our goals. Thus do I share with you this mantra: I am forever 20 summers young. The number itself is unimportant. You could be 19 or 23 or 40. Whatever age you are when you discover this manual, let that be the age you aspire to remain. Through mindful, healthy living will you extend the time available to spend upon your chosen research. Another day, another moon, another summer, to grasp the greater truths you pursue. In the pages that follow, we will explore the secrets of maintaining one's physical condition from a biological, ethological, and arcane viewpoint. This book is on the wrong subject. but it fills us in with how their society is obsessed with study. Stewards of Wisdom. During the chaos of the 6th Umbral Calamity, Archon Nunkrep, founder of Sharlayan, bore witness to the madness and savagery of men brought to the brink of despair. Upon raising a settlement on an island in the northern Empty, he instructed his people thus: renounce the ways of war, and pursue enlightenment through knowledge and reason. The Sharlayans took to heart the words of their saviour, and thenceforth served as stewards of wisdom. Upon a foundation of accumulated learning, they built a homeland unlike any other, a nation born from the strength of minds rather than the strength of arms. With knowledge of economics came shrewd trading. With knowledge of agriculture came bountiful crops. Engineering brought wells and sewers, ending squabbles over water. Wealth of expertise could be bartered for wealth in coin, and the more their wisdom was spread throughout the world, the more mankind as a whole would thrive. And so it was that no matter the trials and tribulations of the age, the citizens of Sharlayan would live by their founders' teachings, for the sake of a better tomorrow. For the sake of a better tomorrow, for the sake of a brighter star, they would eschew the tools of war, and with knowledge deliver the world. You've gained a fundamental understanding of Sharlayan history and the foundation of the Forum. Head outside to the rendezvous point and await your companions. It's interesting that you could draw parallels between the Sharlayans and the Ancients. You know, they were a civilization founded on debate and healthy discussion and arguing one's points of view. Oh, I was about to say, I can't see anybody, but we are waiting. Alipsay? Graha? Sorry, were you waiting long? Yes, days, Ali. I wanted to make sure I borrowed at least a few promising volumes. Alpha Known Trial should also be along shortly. I was delayed in similar fashion. As far as I could see, no titles in the Archon stacks mention the final day specifically, so we have no choice but to start with the tangentially relevant tomes, if they're even that. At present, the plan is to skim through as quickly as we dare, and share our discoveries as we make them. It would have been nice to invite everyone to the estate. Plenty of comfortable places to read and a ready supply of hot tea. Oh, I was always quite fond of reading outside. But it's not about the little pleasures, is it? You miss your home. It's been difficult. After our arrival, we managed to speak with one of the family servants and ask how things were. It seems our dear father has instructed the staff that even if Alphano and I were to return to Charlotte, we were not to be allowed to cross the threshold. Well, he's a dick. A harsh measure indeed. I hope that our efforts to understand his position, and that of the Forum, will perhaps lead to a reconciliation. We'll mend this rift one day, I'm certain of it. I'm not. I think he's going to die before that happens. What of you, Graha? Have you been to visit your family, or do they not live here in the city? Well, my situation is also somewhat complicated. I was raised in Sharlayan, yes, but I was born rather further away. In the southern reaches of Ilsabard, in fact. For generations, my people have dwelt in Corvos, the coastal region opposite the island of Thavnair. The Allagans founded a city in that fertile land, and by ship brought in the subjugated tribes to the Mikote to serve as labourers. Of course, the massive earthquakes of the Fourth Umbral Calamity brought an end to the Empire's reign. And when the Fifth Calamity froze the seas solid, many of the tribes still living in Corvos braved the journey back to Eorzea. My ancestors, however, chose to remain, that they might prevent the remnants of Allagan technology from being misused. Isn't Corvos under Garlean rule? For the past 50 years, yes. Some semblance of local culture remains, as is the case for most imperial provinces, but Garlemald renamed the legion Locus Amunus. We've heard that already, haven't we? Haven't we? Yeah, we have. When I was a boy, a nearby town came under the jurisdiction of an illustrious imperial family, the nobles of House Darnus. As in Nail's family. House Darnus demonstrated a singular interest in Allagan civilization, and so my tribe was forced to consider a plan of action. For some time already, voices have been raised in favour of abandoning our ancient customs. After all, the Allagan Eye no longer passed to our eldest children as reliably as it once had. Fear of discovery eventually tipped the scales, and the decision was made to bury our ties in the knowledge and traditions of Allag. As the last child born with the Allagan Eye, I was given over to the custody of friends in the students of Baldician, who had me registered as a Charlayan citizen. I never even considered. Forgive me, it was an unkind question. Even Thancred was taken in by Archon Luswar, was he not? Stories of adopted waifs and rescued orphans are more common among Charlayans than you might think. Yet, regardless of our origins, we are all provided with an equal opportunity to learn, and with sufficient perspicacity. What the hell is perspicacity? Ah. Perspicacious, having a ready insight into and understanding of things. Gratiteer's word of the week. We outsiders can even earn the vaunted title of Archon. This is exactly why I have such love for this country, and why I wish it to remain a nation of which its citizens can be proud. Hear, hear! Another good reason to get to the bottom of the form's stubbornness, aside from the trifling matter of our impending doom. Excuse us while we try to make some headway into these books, Demma. More company should be arriving any moment now. Nod. First nod of the day? First nod of the day. Wait at the location again! Oops. That's a scholar. Not a scholar, a sage. A level 80 plus sage. Oh, hello. We've returned with our selections. Although I must say, the pickings were quite slim indeed. Mistress Kyle has already flicked through every history book devoted to disasters, and more than a few which barely made mention of them. As such, we will be looking into research papers on the Umbral calamities, as well as articles written by prominent forum members. Perhaps their knowledge of the final days comes from an unexpected source. Speaking of which, might I ask you a few questions related to the final days? I'm the only one here who didn't witness the events of Amrot firsthand, and fear I may be overlooking critical details. Leave it to me! Why thanks. Now, where to begin? First things first, what kind of phenomena did the ancients encounter as the final days drew nigh? A complete destabilization of creation magics. Yes, the unfolding catastrophe wrought havoc on all manner of life. Chaos extended to the ancients themselves, causing their powers of creation to spiral out of control. Fear and despair manifested in terrible, tangible fashion, meteors raining from the sky, fire erupting from the ground, indescribable abominations prowling the street, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. That more or less aligns with my understanding. If only the arts of creation had survived until the present day, we might have had something substantial to analyse. We do! It's summoning magic. Oh, yeah, that's what it says there. To the best of our knowledge, however, those techniques were not preserved or passed on. Ishtola surmises that the closest known magic is that of the summoning rituals promulgated by the Asians. Was there aught else of note which heralded the approach of the final days? A keening from beneath the earth! They say it began... I told you this was going to come back! Ah, yes, the Amoritines spoke of it, didn't they? We never did hear this sound ourselves, of course, thrust as we were into the midst of the madness. But it seems that each and every one of the catastrophes was preceded by this ominous noise. Eventually it resounded all across the star, and not even Amarot was spared. That's a slight expansion, isn't it, of what we knew? The fact that each and every one of the catastrophes was preceded by the ominous noise. I don't think it was told to us like that before. We knew about the keening noise, which was what set everything off, but I'm not sure it specifically mentioned that each major disaster was preceded by the noise. Maybe it was. Maybe I'm slightly misremembering, which, you know, is quite possible. So the ground was crying out, you say? To be considered the harbinger of doom, it must have been quite distinctive, and probably quite loud. I'll have to speak with one of Numenon's mammoths and ask after any books which may make mention of such a sound. Last but not least, would you describe how the ancients sought to quell this unprecedented calamity? What definitive action did they take? They summoned Zodiac. Yes, the Lidibus serving as his heart. So many gave themselves in sacrifice to bring him into being. We do not know exactly how Zodiac brought salvation to the star, only that by his godlike will were the laws of nature set aright. Then, once the balance was redressed, the ancient offered up a further sacrifice to heal the ravages of the final days. Lives sprouted anew, and it was these fledgling souls they intended to render unto Zodiac, a trade that would have allowed them to resurrect the shades of loved ones absorbed by the primal. Or might have, had Vanar and her followers not manifested their opposition in the form of Hydaelyn. Thank you, both of you, for the detailed review. I feel much more confident now in my understanding of events. Yeah, I feel ever so slightly more enlightened. Just that knowledge about the keening, which obviously I've considered to be a fairly important detail since it was first discussed with us. I'm sure that's a little bit of an expansion on the story that we've had so far. But I could be wrong. With all that freshly in mind, it does make me wonder what the Telephroi truly mean when they speak of bringing back the final days. Is this going to tie into my idea of a cyclical narrative, or the ripples effect? We've seen what they're doing with these towers of theirs. Is forcing people to summon primals a kind of catalyst? Are they attempting to mirror the conditions caused by unstable creation magics? Or are they simply using the final days as a figure of speech? A convenient metaphor for the scale of destruction they plan to unleash? But this is all just pointless conjecture at this stage. Let's return our attention to the forum, shall we? We should keep an eye out for Ishtola, but it is time we began studying these research papers. Waiting. Waiting. Hello, Miss Rule. Master Matoya too. I'm the last, am I? Well, my extended search of the Archon stacks produced one or two possibly useful books, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. If you recall, Urianger learned of the source's reflections from the Geran oracles. For its potential to cause panic and confusion, that tome was deemed apocrypha and sealed away in the Great Google Library. It is even less likely that knowledge of the unsundered world, not to mention the horrors of the final days, would be left sitting on a shelf for any curious scholar to find. It stands to reason that my colleagues, be they Archons or Councillors, should perforce be largely ignorant of the subject. Yet when you confronted Master Fortuno with the knowledge of the Telephroi and their machinations, he scoffed at their suggestions that they posed a threat. He seemed adamant that the Form would know if the final days were truly upon us, which only supports the conclusion that whatever privileged wisdom is guiding the Form's behaviour, it is being kept secret from the rest of the nation. Not that I mean to excuse myself from reading duty. Whether they contain mention of the final days or no, these books could yet hold something of value. You weren't thinking of leaving, were you? There's plenty of work for everyone. Have a giggle at the Warrior of Light's expense. This is my kind of research, of course. I am a teacher, after all. You labour for what feels like an age as Ystola's research assistant. Matoya has brooms, Ystola has us. Don't know how I feel about that. Oh dear, you look exhausted. But what about your studies? Were you able to find any books on the subjects I mentioned? And the day was well spent. Should you wish to read them again, a mammoth at the reference desk will point you in the right direction. Excellent. I was wondering whether I'd missed one, because I think there might have been one on the right, closer to the door. At the moment, though, I suggest you take a well-deserved rest. We might be occupied with our research for quite some time. Yes. Definite fan of that. Oh, hello. Can I have some things loading, please? Okay. Back we go. Nice outfit. Ali Bay. Ali Bay appears in desperate need of a study break. Ready for a tea break, Temujin? I know I am. Honestly, my neck and shoulders are going to calcify if I don't stretch my legs and walk around for a bit. You know the last stand down in the harbour, don't you? Come and meet me near the outside tables and I'll treat you to their coffee. It's quite good. Can we get coffee biscuits too? Ba, 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 ba. It is really upbeat, that. And it is... I'm probably going to keep on saying this. I don't know whether I'm saying it because I'm trying to convince myself or what, but it's definitely growing on me. Yeah, the Altissia vibes here are immeasurable. Ugh, a red mage with a hat on. How I wish I could be one of those. Give hats, please. Please, square. That doesn't look practical. I'm pretty certain that's not how chairs work. But they're catching fish, so all power to them. Scholars Harbour. As busy as ever, I see. How very jolly, and that no other gourmet cafe has sprung up to compete for customers. Actually, this crowd gives me an idea. Before we place an order, why don't we ask a few questions and gauge the mood of the city? It's interesting to hear what the average citizen has to say about the Chalofroy. We might even learn something new. Worth a try, don't you think? I was going to say, she's got the little revolving thing around her. Keep Ali Bay at your side. Why would I want to leave Ali behind? Hello, Perondier. What is it? Can a man not enjoy a moment of private respite? If you're looking to share a table, then I respectfully request that you look elsewhere. You misunderstand, sir. We were simply wondering if you knew of the Chalofroy. These enemies of peace have promised an end to what we hold dear, and... Wait! You're that House Levier girl, aren't you? This woman with you is obviously a foreigner. Huh. I've heard you were disowned for helping outsiders and indulge their barbaric whims, and here you are giving truth to the rumour. I'll thank you to leave me be. I've naught to say to the likes of you. Well, I must apologise. 'Twas foolish of me to expect an ounce of civility from one so enlightened. Come, Demagen. Screw you, Perondier! Ooh. What is this outfit? Oh, that's what the exarchic coats look like on men. Hildoaz! Yes, I don't believe I've had the pleasure. Excuse the interruption, but we were hoping you might share your thoughts on the Chalofroy and their unconscionable plans. My goodness, if it isn't the young Miss Levier. My apologies, but I work in the office of the foreman, and if word reached Master Fortunato that I was helping you... I see. We're sorry to have bothered you. Dickon. I shouldn't find that as entertaining as I am. I'm 40 years old. I'm more mature than this. Sort of saw the green screen. The weird screen going green. Yeah, green screen going weird. Welcome, madam. What can I offer you today? Wait, is that Mistress Alice I see there? My word, how long has it been? Far too long. Meet Dickon, the owner of the Last Stand. I used to frequent his cafe on occasion in between lessons at the studio. That seems like an age ago now. I remember hearing that you and Master Alphino had set sail for Eorzea, but then you never came back. Lately there's been gossip about your father disowning the pair of you. Everything all right at home? Nope. Oh, sad face. It's complicated, and I hadn't expected complete strangers to be so familiar with our situation quite so quickly. Everyone has an opinion, it seems. Well, it is House Levier. No matter how discreet Master Fortuno may have been, news of your family's doings never stays secret for long. Things being what they are, what brings you back to the city now, of all times? We have questions, and only Charlayan has the answers. Tell me, Master Dickon, have you heard anything about an apocalypse called the Final Days? What? Like the end of the world? Nothing like that, I'm afraid. That's what you're here to find? Information on this apocalypse? Yes, whatever we can learn. Unfortunately, your patrons appear to be unwilling to speak with me. I wish there was more I could do to help. Huh. Maybe there is. You're a visitor to Charlayan, aren't you? Nod. Then a few will know your face. We should be able to pass you off as a server. We should be able to pass you off as a server with none the wiser. Yes, no, that does make sense. Sorry. We should be able to pass you off as a server, and none will be the wiser, is what that's saying. It just, the structure of it was just brain farty for a second. It's absolutely fine. We just finished preparing a few orders. Strike up some friendly conversation while you're setting down the food, and you might just get the answers you're looking for. Yes, I totally look like a server with this massive guillotine strapped to my back. Not a bad idea. I hate to ask, but what do you think? Chest tapping. That's the spirit. Pay attention now and I'll explain where each of these dishes needs to go. The tea set is for the chatty group sitting by the water's edge. The omelette is for one of our regulars, a Highlander by the name of Gisla. She's sitting on a table outside with her friends. Behind them, you should see a Mikoto gentleman. He ordered the oven-baked lobster. Excuse me. Got all that? If you're not sure, just ask and I'll explain again. Lobster last. Lobster Mikoto. Right, that's Gisla. That's Smitutia. My memory's shit. Speed up, post-demo. Are they in order? Okay, yeah, they are in order. So, tea for the tea, guys. Oh, my tea set. Lovely, thank you. It's Lofahu. I'm sorry, I've never heard of them or their final days. My friends and I are somewhat uninformed when it comes to current events. Now, if you want to hear about the ritual arcane practices of the Sixth Athral era, common or esoteric, then I'd be happy to talk your ear off. Right, Gisla was the omelettes. Ah, finally. 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's dig in. No time to waste. 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Demijourn. What? Slothroy? Oh yes, I remember seeing the name in the latest gazettes. Utters some grand claim about the end of days. Same old senseless warmongering. When will these fools grow tired of spilling each other's blood? Best stay out of it, I say. The Forum made the right choice, and I fully support our decision to remain neutral. You see over that table? It's Mini Thancred. Obeying banter with a smile. At last, the oven-baked lobster is mine. I have no idea how long I've scrimped and saved and suffered to afford this heavenly dish. The final days? This is the first I've heard of it. Although that would explain why my friend has been rushed off his feet. Must be a busy time to be a gleaner. Huh? Don't know what a gleaner is? They're collectors of a sort. Travel the world, procuring things that we haven't got here in Charlayan. Priceless books, unusual live specimens, and so forth. It's a name for those folks who trail after the reapers in the fields, picking up every grain which was missed. By all accounts, gleaning is a most meticulous and demanding profession. If these Telothroi make good on their audacious threats, audacious even, then many uncatalogued rarities could be lost forever. Why else would the gleaners be buzzing about in such a frenzy? Because they're stocking up their ark. Labyrinthos. Watch the harbour and you'll see what I mean. They're carting loads in from the docks all day. Never been this hectic before. Not like this. Interesting. Tartist sauces. I kind of miss... I kind of think I should have gone for the urbane banter. Ali! Any trouble with the customers? Were you able to get anyone talking? Well, actually... Interesting. They seem unaware of the final days, aside from whatever vague news the cassettes are printing. Even Dickon had nothing to offer, and he's the best source of gossip in the city. If the Forum does have secret knowledge, then they've done an impressive job of ensuring no one whispers it in the wrong ear. In any case, thank you for playing the part so well. Here, a cup of tea I promised. Coffee, in fact. Spot the Brit that automatically corrected coffee to tea, despite not drinking either. But let's enjoy our drinks somewhere else, shall we? Maybe behind the peristyle, away from the gossips and their wagging tongues. Yes. Peristyle was the main Aetheryte Plaza, wasn't it? Oh no, that's the Aetheryte Plaza. The Peristyle is the markets. I mean, I spent 2 years walking around the Crystarium, and I couldn't tell you what the places were called. Apart from the pendants being our residential thing. Yes, this should do nicely. Out of the wind and out of sight. Are you sure about that, Ali? There seems to be a massive staircase that goes up past us. Oh.
When our father disowned us, I couldn't believe what I was
They've
hearing.
got tech for frothing coffee now, have they? Also, why is ours just placed on the ground? Oops, no.
It wasn't until much later that his words began to sink in that I began to feel the weight of what it meant. Do you remember when the decision was made to come to Charlayan?
Yes?
Grahas said that the Forum was determined to keep us in the dark, and that Father's venomous performance was part of that strategy, to keep us at arm's length. Perhaps it was. Father argued with Grandfather on many occasions, but never
So they're thinking it might be an act.
Dismissive contempt.
I mean, that would tie in with my idea that he will redeem himself, that he'll sacrifice himself for his kids, or that he'll die a pointless death out of spite, because I'm horrible and vindictive.
And when he demanded what justifies the sacrifices we make in war, I honestly didn't know what to say. Neither did Alpha know, I know, but never for one moment did I believe we had made the wrong choice. So all I could do was fume silently. It was only afterwards that I realised how childish I had been. How being stubborn and self-righteous must run in the family.
You think?
If I could have just mustered a civil response, then things might have turned out differently.
Yeah.
They must be ferrying goods to Labyrinthos.
Oh. Huh. Oh, so Labyrinthos isn't a secret bunker. They already know about it. Huh?
A vast complex beneath the island. Sharlayan is famous for archiving knowledge from around the world. Well, that knowledge is not preserved exclusively in dusty tomes and desiccated samples.
Oh, okay. So I was completely wrong then.
Our living library, comprised of all manner of flora and fauna, is housed
Although maybe they've
and
repurposed
studied
it.
within that underground facility. Still, that did seem to be an unusually large shipment. When I lived here, it was
They're
rare
planning
even
to
see
move
such cargo
there
transported
rather than
by
just
boat.
use it for study.
Wait, didn't you hear something in the last stand about the gleaners coming and going more than usual?
Yarp.
Well, I think they're the ones we saw manning those boats. And gleaners answer to the forum.
Yep.
If the appearance of the Telophoroi prompted this sudden burst of activity, then Labyrinthos may hold a clue as to what the forum is planning.
We have a lead. Ooh, the water's nicely done there. The seat. Yeah, things is taking a little while to update. Yeah, the water texture's been really nicely done. Right, we are going to leave this episode here because we're up to 48 minutes and I feel like the next quest may take a little while. Interesting stuff. So I was completely wrong. Well, I was 80% wrong about Labyrinthos being a secret underground thing. I mean, I was right in the sense that I feel like they are definitely kind of going down to live there. But yeah, that revelation about the... Well, I say revelation potentially to me, about the sound preceding each catastrophe. Maybe it did say it like that before. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to go back and check all my videos to find out, because that would take forever. And I'd much rather play this. So, on the subject of playing more of this, next time, folks, we will play more of this. Until then, have yourselves a wonderful day. Happy end walking. Doodle pip.
Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, why not click the like button and consider subscribing. Remember, you can ring the bell notification icon to get notified when new videos go live. And until next time, cheerio.